So yeah, hello and welcome to today's webinar. This is new flexible cancellation tools that increase revenue and direct bookings. Now, for those of you who are already familiar with travel protection, this will act as kind of a good refresher and will also help to clarify some of the new improvements we've made to the service. For those of you who are new to ResNexus or to travel protection, I'd like to say, first of all, welcome. And second of all, I think you'll be pleased with how this service can help protect your business, save you time and money, and help drive more bookings. First, here's a little about me. My name is Gavin Wadsworth. I'm a hospitality researcher and content writer for ResNexus. I've been here for a little over 2 years, and I'm pleased to speak on this topic for you today. Thanks so much for attending. I hope you get great value out of this webinar. All right, so diving right in, the first thing I'd like to touch on is the concept of bookings aren't guarantees. Now, this might sound a little counterintuitive, but I think you'll see what I mean in just a moment. Here's a quote from an excellent article on Hotel Dive, and it says, "A booking confirmation is not a victory. It's merely a potential sales lead until the guest arrives." And I think that's really true from both a business and a financial perspective. You can't count your eggs until they've hatched, and you can't count the revenue from bookings until the guests actually arrive, because you never know what might happen. In a lot of ways, you, the property owner, are kind of caught between a rock and a hard place when it comes to cancellations. And here's how. So, a cancellation rate of 20% is fairly normal for the industry. And that's roughly what I've seen based on my research as well. And that number can be kind of scary, depending on how stringent your cancellation policies are. Last minute cancellations, especially, are difficult to work with because it's often more difficult to fill a vacancy in such a short time frame. So, if your cancellation policy is generous with the refunds, this means a hit to your revenue as a result. So, a more strict cancellation policy might be in order to help protect your business from unexpected losses. But that also has its own downsides as well. Travelers are prioritizing flexibility in their travel plans more and more. In fact, 47% or more of travelers say that they would never book non-refundable lodging. And OTAs have also taken note of this trend, which is why they often have search options for flexible cancellations. So, under the strict policy, you're more likely to turn away some of those travel conscious guests. Even one or two negative reviews online about your property's strict cancellation policies are probably going to scare many potential guests away. And guests who do book with you but end up having to cancel are probably going to be frustrated by your policies and less likely to book with you again in the future. So now you see what I mean about being caught between a rock and a hard place. Either way, you're kind of losing out. So the answer is, of course, to find a happy middle ground between these two extremes, but you're always going to be trying to balance out the satisfaction of your guests and your own profits, and one kind of directly affects the other. So, why do guests cancel? Why go through the effort of finding a great place to stay, securing your accommodations, and then canceling? Well, the reasons basically fall into one of two categories. And the first one is trip stacking or changes in travel plans. Trip stacking is the practice of reserving two or more accommodation options for the same dates and then deciding later on which one to keep and then canceling the others. And changes in travel plans often have kind of the same result. You were planning on having the family reunion in Oregon to make less driving for your relatives who live in California, but then they can't come, so it doesn't make sense anymore to have your trip in Oregon. So that's a change in travel plans. And then the other category is basically all other unexpected circumstances. So your guests, they get sick or their flight's delayed or the car breaks down, they get jury duty, there's bad weather, they broke their leg, any number of things, things you don't expect and can't predict. So life, in other words. So what can you do to offset these circumstances? Well, in the case of trip stacking or changes in travel plans, a good solution is to engage your guests with pre-stay messaging to keep them excited about your property and location. Studies show that people get excited by novelty of new things, so The travel planner of the group might get excited about your property and book a stay several months out. But that's several months where they might get distracted by some other option and perceive that one as better, but only because they looked at it more recently. It's a weird quirk of human behavior, but it happens. So, reaching out to your upcoming guests can help remind them why they booked your place to begin with, especially if you can showcase some of those fun things to do in the area, great places to eat, and that kind of thing. As for unexpected cancellations, there's not much you can do about that. Life happens and you can't control when or how it happens. What you can do is offer ResNexus Travel Protection. So, for those of you not aware, ResNexus Travel Protection is a limited warranty service that's free to your business if you're a ResNexus subscriber and is paid for by the guest. So, in the event of a qualified cancellation, ResNexus Travel Protection will refund the guest from your business on your behalf and then reimburse your business for the same amount. That means you can provide incredible flexibility for guest cancellations without breaking the bank. This protection not only saves you money and reduces your refund exposure, but it can also help make travel conscious guests more likely to book with you and provide more satisfaction for guests who do end up having to cancel. Travel protection also saves you time by handling the administration of guest cancellations and refunds for this service. You can even allow guests who cancel through travel protection to reschedule as part of the same process. This is a very powerful service for your business, and it's been around for several years now, and we have some new improvements that we think you'll appreciate. But let's go more in depth on what travel protection is. As I said, this is a limited warranty service, and it's kind of similar to the kind you might get with the purchase of a smartphone or other device like that. You make a big purchase, but you know that sometimes life happens, and you don't want to have spent all that money on essentially nothing. So you spend a little bit more so you can rest easy, knowing that if the worst happens, you're protected and can get a replacement device. Or in the case of travel protection, you can just reschedule. All right, let me show you how it works. So there are three protection options provided by ResNexus Travel Protection, and they are sickness, injury, or travel delay, adverse weather involving rain, and cancel for any reason. You, as the property, can choose which options you offer to your guests, and then your guests can choose which options they like to purchase when they're making a booking. So here's that in practice. So when you have travel protection enabled, users are able to view and select their travel protection options on your booking engine after selecting a unit. When a guest does make a booking and then purchases travel protection with it, they'll also pay a small percentage of the reservation total as a travel protection fee, which will be collected by ResNexus. And this is what makes it possible for us to offer this service free to your business in the first place. Travel protection cancel reservations will automatically have any remaining balance collected 14 days before the arrival date. If you've been a user of travel protection in the past, you'll know that that's one of the changes we've made to make the service more convenient, as full payment used to be required at the time of booking. Now the remainder of the payment is collected 14 days before the arrival date. And then in the case of over the phone bookings, where the guest isn't using the booking engine necessarily, we've provided a section on the reservation page for travel protection. You can click that blue button for information to read out loud to the guest. And then hovering over each of those protection options will give you more information about that specific option that you can then provide over the phone. Now let's go over each of these three protection options one at a time. Starting off with sickness, injury, or travel delay protection. And again, if you were previously familiar with travel protection, you know that this protection option used to be two different options, which have now been combined for the convenience of you and your guests. Now, if you have travel conscious guests who are worried about missing out on their stay due to a very wide range of reasons, they can rest easy with this fantastic protection option. A guest who books with this protection option qualifies for a 100% reimbursement for many circumstances. So, if they get sick, such as with the flu, or if they're injured, if they or a close family member dies, if they're summoned to jury duty, if their college exam dates are moved to interfere with their trip, if they're called to active duty, and many more. In any of these cases, the guest can apply for a reimbursement in the 14 days leading up to their arrival date. In the case of home emergencies, this is also this is also falls under this protection option. So for example, break-ins or a fire, water damage, and that kind of thing. In these cases, the guest can apply up to 2 days before the arrival date. And finally, there are transportation delays and vehicle breakdowns. If this occurs in the 24 hours leading up to their arrival, the guest can apply for reimbursement for missed days. If a guest who books with travel protection is unable to arrive for any part of the reservation under this option, they'll be refunded for 100% of the booking total and will reimburse your business in turn for that same amount. Note that this does not include the travel protection fee. If the guest is able to make it to part of their reservation, such as if they arrive late or if they have to leave early, they'll receive a refund for the days they were not able to attend. And one final thing to note about this option is that for sickness, injury, and death, that also applies to pets. So if your guest's dog gets sick before their big adventure, the guest just has to provide a veterinarian's note as proof for their reason of cancellation. The next protection option is adverse weather involving rain. This is typically only used for outdoor-oriented accommodations or anywhere that can be effectively where a trip is ruined with heavy rainfall. So, for example, camping. And this protection is specifically for rainfall. So if you're a campground or glamping property or something like that, this would be one you'd want to consider offering. And here's how it works. If it rains for 2 to 4 hours during the day while your camper or guest is on site, they can receive a 50% refund for that day. And again, your business will receive that same amount as a reimbursement. Again, that does not include the travel protection fee. If it happens to rain for more than 4 hours, then we consider that the whole day is a wash, so that increases to 100% refund and reimbursement for that day. Last thing to note about this option is that it is only available in the United States. If your property is located in Canada, Mexico, or Europe, where we don't offer the protection option for weather, this next protection option can be a very good substitute. And it's also an excellent choice for every property type. So cancel for any reason protection is exactly what it sounds like. The guest can cancel for any reason 14 days or fewer before their arrival date for a 75% refund. Again, minus the travel protection fee. And then your business would receive that same amount as a reimbursement for the refund. If a guest has purchased this option in addition to one of the other protection options, and then they have to cancel, we try to make sure that they and your business get the biggest benefit possible. So if they also had protection for sickness, injury, or travel delay, and they had to cancel because their dog got sick, we want to make sure to give them the 100% refund for that protection rather than just the 75% from the cancel for any reason protection. But this protection option is very powerful on its own and could be a deciding factor for many travelers who just want that added security and flexibility, which allows them to book with confidence. Now, hopefully all goes well and your guests are able to make it to their booking without incident. In that case, you simply do what you do best and you provide that excellent guest experience. And as I said earlier, flexibility for cancellations is a major draw for travelers on its own. So you could see an increased volume of bookings just for offering travel protection in the first place. If the guest does have to cancel, they can easily apply for reimbursement in just a few seconds. And they can do this again in the 14 days leading up to their arrival date. The exact time frame depends on the nature of the cancellation and the option they're using. Or they can apply up to 30 days after what would have been their departure date if they were not able to deal with their travel complications until after the fact. And the process for reimbursement is very simple. First, the guest clicks the travel protection link in their confirmation email. When you sign up for travel protection, this section will automatically be added onto your confirmation emails, making it really easy for them to find. So the guest simply clicks on that apply for refund button and they input their last name and phone number. And then on the next page, the guest provides the reason for cancellation. Unless the guest is using the cancel for any reason protection option, they'll have to provide proof of the reason as part of this application. So, for example, if a guest gets sick, they'll have to provide a doctor's note as proof. Earlier, I mentioned pets. If their pet gets sick, they'll have to provide a veterinarian's note as proof. If their flight was delayed, they can provide the notice of the flight delay. If a family member passed away, then a death certificate is sufficient proof for that. For bad weather involving rain, we look for photo evidence and weather reports, and it's fairly straightforward. The exact proof required is outlined in greater detail in our travel protection terms and conditions. All right, so after the guest has done that, worry-free bookings, which is the administration service for ResNexus Travel Protection, worry-free bookings will review the application for you. And this is actually another of the great benefits of travel protection. It doesn't just save you money, we also save you time by handling the administration of protected cancellations. Our team will typically complete the review within 1 to 2 business days, so the guests can get their refund and you can get your reimbursement quickly. If the reason for cancellation is valid and the guest provides the proof we're looking for, we will refund the guest to their credit card from your business on your behalf for the appropriate amount. And then we'll reimburse your business for that same amount via credit card, check, or ACH payment, meaning you were able to offer a great refund without taking the hit to your revenue for the unexpected loss of income. 98% of qualified reimbursement requests are approved. Those that are denied essentially boil down to people who don't supply proof for their reason of cancellation. Part of the reason this percentage is so high is because we also follow up on denied requests if the proof isn't provided, because we want to make sure that someone who cancels for protected reason gets their refund. If they still can't provide the proof with the second attempt, only then is the request denied for the final time. And getting started with travel protection is easy. You simply sign into your ResNexus account and navigate to Settings, and then go to the Travel Protection option either by typing it into the search bar or by scrolling down to find it. And once there, you just click the big blue Enroll button. You can also learn more about this service on this page. And in order to sign up, you will need to do two things, and you may already have these, but the two things are first, you need to enable credit card processing of phone reservations, and you also need to add the policies tag to your email confirmations. Once you're signed up, you can configure your settings for travel protection. First, you can choose whether to allow guests that book with travel protection to reschedule their bookings. This is another time-saving tool that can also impress your guests, and it enables them to still find a way to enjoy your hospitality just at a different date when they don't have to cancel. You can also choose whether travel protection is auto-selected on your booking engine or if it's unchecked by default. Here's an example of what that looks like. One strategy which we've seen properties have success with is to offer only cancel for any reason, but have it auto-selected for guests, meaning the guest would have to uncheck the box to opt out. This provides a wide protection option that guests are likely to want. The other strategy we've seen is to have all three options available, but unselected by default, so the guest has to opt in and choose which protection options work best for them, if any. So you'll of course want to choose the option that makes the most sense for your business and for your guests. And of course, you can change it at any time. All right, we're coming up on the end. Before we wrap up and get to the Q&A, so yes, it was a Q&A. You can get your questions ready. You can put them in the chat now if you'd like to. I wanted to go over a few of our most frequently asked questions. And the first is, what type of properties can use ResNexus Travel Protection? And the answer is that everyone, no accommodation properties are excluded from travel protection. What if the guest has to cancel before the 14-day window or has to cancel for a reason not protected under their travel protection options? The answer is you treat it like a normal reservation, so you would apply your own cancellation policies in that case. Is travel protection travel insurance? We had a slide about this, but just to reiterate, no, travel protection is a limited warranty. What if my guest wants to change the dates of their stay? The answer is your property has the flexibility to move a booking safeguarded by travel protection to an earlier or later date within 18 months. What if the guest is a no-show but then cancels later? Again, they can apply for a reimbursement up to 30 days after their departure date, whether they showed up or not. We know sometimes life can get complicated. And finally, what do I do if the guest calls me asking for the refund? So if the guest calls at and asks for a refund 14 days or fewer before the arrival date, have them click the travel protection link found in their confirmation email, and they can do the process from there. All right, I already see some questions coming in, but just really quickly, I just wanted to say that if you did enjoy this webinar and want to view any of our past ones, you can do so at our website, resnexus.com. And if you go to the webinars tab, then you can view our entire library of past webinars and also register for upcoming ones. All right. And with that, we are now at the Q&A, and I'd like to thank you all for joining. And also like to thank, I've got Nathan Mayfield here to join me to help me out with that, the Vice President of Strategic Partnerships. There, I got it.
Thanks, Gavin.
Yeah, thank you.
Um, yeah, looks like you guys have some great questions already. So I'll just read them off and answer them as best I can. Thanks again for being with us today for today's webinar. One of them was, so a question asked was, can we default to our own payment policy if it's greater than 14 days prior to the arrival date? The answer is yes. So how ResNexus Travel Protection works is that if you want a 50% deposit or no deposit prior to 14 days, whatever your deposit rule is, um, the system will respect that. It's only at 14 days prior to arrival date that ResNexus Travel Protection will then collect 100% of the remaining remaining reservation total at that time. If you collect it all up front, then it will collect nothing. If you collect 50%, then at 14 days it will collect the rest of the 50%. And that's just because it coincides when the actual travel protection is time period is active for that particular guest reservation. I have a question. Will this work with OTA listings? Currently, ResNexus Travel Protection is exclusive to your own booking engine, and it doesn't pass out to the other OTAs. A lot of times, the larger OTAs like Airbnb or Expedia or Booking.com, they have their own. So this is actually a great service to be able to offer the protection direct and compete with them. There is some plans for ResNexus to expand this out to some other OTA partnerships in the future, but that's probably a couple years off. And then let me just go that. Uh, so I have a question. What are the rates for cancel for any reason? When is the amount charged to the guest? So the rates for any of the protection basically is a fixed percentage based on a lot of factors. If it's, for example, if it's weather, depends on the state, the season. So that rate may vary. And the same can be true for cancel for any reason or the illness and travel delay. Uh, just to reiterate, the amount is charged to the guest at the time of booking, but the amount is not collected until basically, depending on your deposit rules, we don't collect payment until 14 days before the arrival date. I have a question. What happens if the guest's credit card info changes between the booking and the 14-day mark where the balance is due, i.e. new number due to fraud? Well, what happens is the refund is refunded back to the card on file. If that's not possible to refund it back to, which is really an anomaly, then we would send a check to the guest in that case. So we have other payment methods available if that is such the case, but I have never seen that happen since the program's been running for, I think, in its third year. Let's see. So another question is, do we pay the credit card fee when the guest is refunded due to the cancellation? So the only, if you, again, the costs, the travel protection fee is paid by the guest. The only costs that are associated are with credit card transactions. So just as you pay when we collect payment, like you do in the ResNexus system, there's a credit card fee anytime you process a credit card in any PMS system. The same, the small amount that's charged to refund the fee back to the credit card. Yes, there is a small little whatever the credit card brand card charges us, that fee is passed on to you. Um, and the other another question is, if we're already signed up to offer travel protection, do we need to update anything? The only thing you would need to update is check what options you want to offer. Cancel for any reason is fairly new. So if you want to offer that on your booking engine, then you would just go and select that as an option to offer. Other than that, there's nothing on your end to change. The program runs almost seamlessly as before. Um, and then I have a question or statement. It rains everywhere. Is it clear that ResNexus is talking about campgrounds, etc.? So we mentioned this webinar. Gavin did a great job on the weather. We find that with adverse weather involving rain, it is available for anyone, but the ones that we find that adopt it are campgrounds. So if you want to put it on and you're a bed and breakfast or some other type of accommodation, we support that as well. Again, if the guest measures that it rains them out and so it affects their activities for that day, then we reimburse them for that day based on the amount of rain that goes. So it isn't exclusively for campgrounds, but those are the people that the property types that usually make that live as campgrounds. And then what does the reporting look like for these transactions for reconciliation and tracking purposes? So you have inside of ResNexus, you have a travel protection report that shows you all of the reservations that have travel protection, but also when they're refunded and when you receive that amount, we have reports that show that information as well and zero out the balance. Can the travel protection be added after the initial booking, but 14 days before the 14-day period? The answer is no, other than you'd have to cancel that existing reservation and rebook it with travel protection to do so. And then another question is a scenario, say a guest cancels, but is not for a covered reason. ResNexus has collected the money. Yes. Do you pay the collection fee or do we bill them? So if the guest cancels, but it's not for a covered reason, what we recommend is that if you decide to refund the money, in that case, we recommend that you refund everything but the travel protection fee, because at that point, ResNexus has collected the travel protection fee and it will not be refunded to your property. And it's not an eligible, if it's not for an eligible cancellation, well, irregardless, we never refund that fee. So I just would recommend that you don't refund that fee, but refund the amount that you deem necessary for the other guest. Another thing that I just wanted to note is that one of the reasons why properties like ResNexus Travel Protection so much is if the guest cancels outside of that 14-day window before the arrival date, it's up to you if you want to refund the travel protection fee at that point too. And in that case, you get to keep that money, because if you cancel that reservation and it never went into the 14-day before arrival date period, ResNexus never collects that from you. Another question is, can I guest like travel protection if they book within a 14-day window? They can. There are some limitations depending on the type. If it's over the phone, I believe we limit that to 77 days before the arrival date. You cannot offer it if it's an over the phone reservation, but I believe on the booking engine, it's if the booking is more than 24 hours before the arrival date, then they can still add travel protection to an online booking. Another question is, can travel protection be added to a reservation when the reservation is completed, but the guest on the phone asking about adding or subtracting that item? Let's see if I understand that. So again, the easiest, if I'm understanding you correctly, The easiest way to do is if they call in, this is the scenario I'm understanding that you're asking. If they've made an online booking and they're calling in and they want to add travel protection to that booking, then you would have to cancel that reservation and rebook it with travel protection on that. If on the account, if the sometimes we get the guest saying, "Hey, I didn't mean to book travel protection," and they request to take that off, you are able to. There is a method that you can remove that as well, and it doesn't happen very often. But if that happens, or if you run into any trouble, you can always call your ResNexus support representative or account representative, and they help walk you through that. And if the another question is if the final payment at 14 days runs automatically, how do you handle cards being declined for final payment? And they just stated, I usually reach out to the guest for a new card. Would I be alerted to do that? So basically, in that scenario, if we go to run payment and the card is declined, then and we cannot collect the travel protection fee for any reason, then basically what happens is according to our terms and conditions, that booking no longer has travel protection on it. You do get notifications in our system if a payment does fail, so you would just follow the process to put that on file, and then once that payment's collected and taken, then it would be reinstated. Uh, And then another question is, have you explained how much the fees for the program are? So the travel protection fees vary based on, I did, but I'll go over it again. The travel protection fees change based on the selected protection. So if it's, and it's, and for a lot of them, it's also based on like state and weather. So there's a lot of factors that go in. So I can't give you like a hard and fast rule. But in general, the travel protection fee varies between like 6 to 12% of the total booking value. It just varies based on where you're at and everything else. And so I wouldn't ever quote that to your guest. I would just say it's the travel protection fee is what's on there. It's very clearly marked. The hard amount is clearly displayed when they're checking out for any coverage that they're doing. And if you have further questions, you can about travel protection, you can always just call into our sales line or into our support line, and we can answer any questions about travel protection that you may have. So that one, that's pretty easy. And then I have a question that just give me a second to read. It's a little longer. So someone's just asking if I can reiterate if the guest cancels before the 14-day period, ResNexus doesn't collect the fee from the property. Correct. And then the additional question is, so if someone makes a reservation by mistakes and cancels within 24 hours of booking, then we can cancel with no penalty? No. So if they're booking within 24 hours, then it's within that 14-day before arrival date window, and it's immediately going to collect 100% of that booking. So in that scenario, they would do that. And but we have made it a little bit easier that if they call, we can remove that for you. And we are looking to make it so that maybe it gives you a little bit of leeway in the future. Do we have to use ResNexus credit card processing to offer this? No, you don't, but you do have to process credit cards through the ResNexus system. So we offer credit card processing as our own optional feature to properties. Many properties like it because it also comes with enhanced reporting that's found in the system without you having to log into your credit card processor as much. But you don't have to. With ResNexus, you can use another gateway like authorized.net or USA ePay to connect your current credit card processor to the ResNexus system, but you do have to process credit cards through the ResNexus system. Hopefully that answered that question. And then I have a question. How about long-term stays, say 6 months? Is there a limit of length of stay covered? There's a limit of price. So I think a 6 month stay, depending on how cheap it was, I mean, in theory could be done, but the cap for for ResNexus Travel Protection to protect a booking is $5,000 US. So if your reservation total is going to be more than that, then travel protection will not show up as a reimbursement option or as an option to be selected by your guest. And then clarification on that question, they're asking, no, I mean, if they cancel 24 hours after booking, but before the 14-day protection starts, there's still not the question was, is there a grace period? There is not in that case. You would still, there is a way that you can delete that. We're looking to make that a little bit easier in the future. But right now, if you really run into trouble, just send an email to your ResNexus support representative. We can handle that for you. Great.
Yeah.
Wow. That was a ton
Awesome.
of questions.
You did great. Thanks for getting through all those. Oh, there's one more.
Yeah, I was like, keep going. I'll just take a drink of water, wait for
Yeah.
people.
Yeah,
How
hydrate
does
for sure.
how does travel protection work for groups? Right now, we are modifying the group booking engine that we have, and so travel protection currently doesn't work on the current version, but in the next couple of months, when we're really close to updating that, travel protection will show up for a group booking link if that's what you're asking, and so that will shortly be available in the future as well. And just to handle the group question, like if someone's booking several units for a group on your booking engine, that of course works. But for groups, we also have a module that's in ResNexus for those of you who are not familiar that allows you to send a custom booking link that only contains that inventory for that group. That is what I'm talking about. That is being modified to handle travel protection in later this year.
All right. Fantastic. Hey, thanks everyone so much for all your questions. This has been fantastic. Thanks so much for your engagement and taking the time out of your day to come and learn more about this service. We're really excited about it. So,
Yeah, and like I said, I think off the top of my hand, I believe that we've refunded and protected properties and guests by during over $400,000, and we get a lot. It really helps you to maintain your reputation by offering a more flexible cancellation fee. I know a lot of the OTAs, even when you list your inventory, they really encourage you to have more flexible cancellation options. So if you're not going to do it on the OTA, this is a great option individually. And one thing that we work here hard at ResNexus is, again, because it's a warranty service and not insurance, we have a way higher rate of refund than most other providers, and that's because our main mission is to protect your reputation and offer a great service for the guests. So, the other question is, do you have examples of how properties advertise the availability of the service on their websites so people know they can book before? Yes, actually, that is one thing that was new that we forgot to mention in reviewing this webinar. Is that one of the things that we do is that if you have a ResNexus website, or if you just contact your ResNexus representative, we actually have a little image that you can place on your website that talks about the coverages and takes them to the links for the terms and conditions so that your guests can learn more on your individual website. So that's great. And a lot of properties like to do that as well. It's definitely something you should advertise on the website.
all right. It's looking like we've come probably to the end of questions. We'll keep it open for another few seconds. Just in the meantime, I want to say thank you once more to everyone for attending, and thanks to Nathan for helping us out with this. I think this has been a really successful webinar. So thank you.
Yeah, you guys have been great. Really good questions, all smart. So
Yeah, we've had a couple people offer their thanks as well and appreciation in the comments. So yeah, thank you.
thank you. The biggest thing, if I was going to say, if you decide to do ResNexus Travel Protection, is that just keep in mind, probably the biggest thing I see from or get feedback from our administrator service is that a lot of times the guest gets gun-ho about calling the administrator service, which is Worry Free Bookings, asking where the refund is, or they'll call the property And then just direct them to say, hey, I'm so sorry that that happened to you. Uh, that that's that sounds like that's protected by travel protection, or if not, read your terms and conditions. But look at your email and click on the apply for refund button on that email, because basically our administrator doesn't see it until they do that. So that's the biggest thing, and just helps speed that up. The other thing that wasn't mentioned is that ResNexus automatically cancels the booking for you as well once the refund is approved. So a lot of properties, why they love that is because then they can rebook the room, particularly if it's closer to that 14 days before the arrival date and it's a busy season, they can rebook that room and basically get paid for that room twice. Another question last minute was, I see jury duty has been added as an option. They had a guest last year be denied for that. Is there a way to get them reimbursed at this late time? No, because that protection option wasn't available back then. We initially, for those of you who've been with us for a long time, we initially had it, and then we just simplified it down to health. But we've been able recently to bring that back, and so basically it wasn't part of what they purchased as travel protection option at the time.
All right. Fantastic. I think, oh, nope. Let's see.
More questions. Great.
Just when I think it's over.
Okay. I love it. You mentioned no shows. We know that the person has canceled in all cases. So when they apply for a refund, you're absolutely sent notifications every step of that reimbursement process. So you know if they've applied for a refund. You still might have a no-show that shows up. Sometimes that happens. And then what ResNexus Travel Protection does is it gives you an option to, in the future, if they call and say, I'm sorry, I was really sick, or I had a travel delay or something else, they have 30 days till after the departure date to still apply for the refund in that case. But either case, you've been paid on no shows. And again, the reason why properties kind of love this service too is it helps them enforce their more strict cancellation policies. So they can say, hey, did you buy travel protection? No, you didn't. Well, outside of that, this is what my cancellation policy is. So I'm still going to take 50% deposit and not refund that. Or in this case, if they do it and they say, I need a refund, I'm like, it's not a qualifying reason, or you waited too long. So hopefully that answers your no-show question. So awesome. Another question: how can I find out the cancel for any reason rate for my property and region? So on all of them, the easiest way is to go to your booking engine and to just make a fake book. Just put an item in your cart, and that will give you the percentage for that time period and that date for it. Again, weather is the one that fluctuates the most. Canceled for any reason and health and travel delay are usually fairly flat for your area and for your region. Can I determine the rate before joining the program? Um, you can always turn it on and turn it off. You don't have to do it. If you have questions about the rate, you can send me an email. I can give you information and look it up for you if you need to, or you can ask a ResNexus salesperson, and they can check that for you and give you a rough range.
I can answer this
Yes.
one.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I was like, oh, go ahead, Gavin.
Yeah, will a link to this webinar be sent to attendees? Yeah, well, I'll have it up online within the day, if not in the next few days. And it'll be sent out to everybody. There'll also be a survey at the end of this webinar, I believe. So if anyone wants to fill that out to give us information about how we did, we'd also appreciate that. But yeah, this will be available online shortly.
Can ResNexus Travel Protection be added to existing reservations? It can only be added at the time of booking. So as they're booking online or over the phone, your staff can add it as well. Again, there's some date restrictions. It can't be a same day booking online, and it can't be fewer than 7 days on over the phone. If you want to add it to an existing reservation, that's outside and their arrival date is more than 14 days in the future, you would have to cancel that reservation and rebook that reservation with travel protection added. So you can do that, but you'd want to do that with the guest over the phone.
All right. What do you think, Nate?
I'll give them 60 more seconds.
60 more seconds. All right. No, seriously, thank you, everybody. This has been fantastic. Thanks for all the questions. And yeah, if you do ever have any further questions, like I said, the webinar will be available online. You can also reach out to the emails and phone numbers on screen right now, if you have further questions as well that we weren't able to get to for whatever reason. All right.
Yeah, and any further questions, I would say just reach out to us on our sales line or contact your support if you're a ResNexus client. You can always go into settings and click on customer support, send your representative give them a call or send them an email, and they'll answer those questions for you as well.
All right. With that said, I think I'm going to thank everyone once more for attending, and I hope you all have a great rest of your week.
Okay,
Okay,
one more.
we have one
This is the
recommendation.
last question. Okay.
It's actually a recommendation. It said, just for those wondering about costs, I was hesitant at first, but has clearly been something I promote now. So there's a glowing recommendation from a ResNexus client. So thank you very much. All right. With that said, I think I'm going to go ahead and call it here. We almost made it to the hour. So awesome.
Great.
All right. Yeah. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. Thanks so much.
Yep.